All right. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it might be, wherever you might be, ladies, gentlemen, anybody else. Welcome once again to Nerd
Good
Week
evening,
Live here
good
on
morning, good
YouTube.
afternoon, good
Yep,
whatever it
I
might
knew
be,
it. It was
wherever
going to
you
start
might
sounding.
be, ladies, gentlemen.
Stop that. Not you folks. Don't stop anything. Well, I don't know what you're doing, so stop and watch. That was me yelling at the preview on YouTube. Anyway, I've already said welcome to Nerd Week Live. I've already said Nerd Caliber. So what I will say is I'm Rodney Brown, the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, first-person shooter as a cosplay photographer on Facebook, Burley underscore adopter on Twitter, a couple of other things, a couple of other places. And joining me tonight, once again, the bald beard twin with a different sweater. Very
Oh,
sort of emo Charlie Brown going on there. So introduce yourself, sir.
emo Charlie Brown. What's up, man? Life is the worst. Keeps yanking the football out from under you. I'm just gonna go listen to the Cult and
You know,
smoke.
he's actually like really that close to being emo anyway.
Hi, everybody. Greg Snyder, aka Wonder Llama Cosplay and/or Photography, depending on when you catch me. I am an associate producer here at Nerd Caliber, and Rodney 2.0, as I'm often known, when I put on the black vest and I sit in for the Rodfather. Not that anybody can fill his shoes, but I have been mistaken for you more than once, my friend.
Sit in being the appropriate phrase. Sarah, Luminous, welcome to the show officially, even though we said before the start. And yes, the polls are closing. It is entirely your decision to vote or not in if you're in New Hampshire, our wonderful neighbor to the north here, for both of us who are in Massachusetts. But I would strongly encourage you that you do. I believe it's a civic duty, although not clearly, obviously, a required legal duty or obligation. Sarah, welcome to the show. How is everyone? Doing okay? My voice might sound a little reedy for some reason. I seem to be a little stuffed up. Allergies, I'm guessing. Hopefully, not a cold. And I can't speak for Greg.
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm heading to Katsucon on Thursday afternoon. I'm hoping I can get enough vitamin C into my system in the next 2 days to ward off the inevitable con crud. Knock on wood, I've managed to go through my last couple of shows sans con crud, but who knows? I'm also not super looking forward to the weather forecast. It's barely going to
Yep.
break 40 the whole weekend.
Yep.
But anybody that might be out there on the inner tubes, if you are going to be in the DC area this coming weekend, you probably already know about Katsucon. It is one of the biggest and certainly best anime conventions that I've ever been to. I'm sure there's others in lots of other places that are bigger and better, but it's certainly one of the preeminent American anime conventions. It's at an amazing location, and it's kind of it's right up there with Dragon Con and New York Comic Con in terms of the Super Bowl of cosplay. It tends to be, obviously, as you'd expect, sort of anime themed cosplay more than anything else, but you'll still see. I mean, I did a great photo shoot with like 20 different spiders, men and/or women and/or anything in between. Last year, just before, or 2 years ago, I can't remember, just before Into the Spider-Verse. I'm sorry, just after Into the Spider-Verse came out. So it's a great show. If you're around, look for me. I will have a camera. I will probably be wearing a kilt. Come by, say hello, and get some photos.
Yes, folks, please do. And also look for Manny, our co-founder, no, our founder, our co-owner, who will be doing video, and will be there asking all sorts of interesting questions. I'm not sure what he's got lined up for the question of the day for any day that he's there, but we'll see. Um, and Sarah says she's never heard of the Doctor Strange sequel. Well, it's coming up. They're definitely making it. They announced it at the big um, D23 announcement and then Hall H at San Diego Comic Con as one of the Phase 4 movies. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is its title. Current working title and probably ultimate title, based on what I hear. Luminous has good advice. Katsucon, if you're going there, don't get trampled by a herd of photographers. It is a cosplay con and therefore a super duper cosplay photographer con. They're everywhere. We're everywhere.
The running joke in the last several years is it is the Hunger Game of photography.
That's not inaccurate.
It's probably the only con that I've been to where the ratio of photographers to cosplayers may actually be skewed towards the photographers. There's always plenty of photographers at any convention you go to that's going to have a lot of cosplay, as you'd expect. But for some reason, probably some of it's the location, some of it's the cosplayers that show up. But it's the only place where there's like a scrum line the way there is in after a sports event or after a political rally or anything like that, where you've just got like, oh my God, it's so and so. Let's 50 people squeeze in and anyway.
There's some hilarious videos to that effect too. Felix Wong did a wonderful one a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. Natalia, welcome to the show. Linda, welcome to the show. We're going to get into our first topic here, and that is, like I mentioned to Greg, I just rearranged all my settings here on my dual monitor. So if I seem really more confused than normal, bear with me. But that first thing is what has just appeared on your screen. There is I was going to say screen grab, but clearly that's not it. It's a promotional image from the upcoming third season of Castlevania. And the news, and it's not any really great big news, but it is news. That is, you only have to wait until March 5th to see this new upcoming season on Netflix. And as was the case with Season 2 over Season 1, where it increased the episode count, this will be a 10-episode season versus the 8 of Season 2 and the minuscule little 4 of Season 1. So there you go, Castlevania fans. You can get your Alucard on. You can get your Belmont on. You can get your, I can't think of the name of the white-haired crazy vampire lady. Camilla, exactly.
Which I only ever remember because we have friends that cosplay that, and I've shot a lot of photos with a lot of great Camillas over the years.
That is true. Savage Wolf, welcome to the show. Hi, old man. Excuse me. Anyway, I'm not. It's not inaccurate. I'm just saying, excuse me. Where is Joker, or Joker, perhaps? Depends on which Joker you mean. We've used quite a few of them in our various videos. Unless you mean somebody named Joker, in which case I'm confused. But anyway.
I got nothing.
Exactly. So, other than shooting Castlevania cosplayers, have you seen the shows, Greg? You've watched the season, Jeff?
I have.
Right.
I have. I liked it a lot. It's it's a lot going on there. I don't know if you're not like an old school video game guy person, might forget that this was actually based on a video game that goes back to like the days of Doom and Quake and some of the sort of the early, real early video games. But yeah, it's definitely a great anime. I'm looking forward to season 3.
I am too. I've seen all of it. I kind of felt that season 2 got a little slow, but it picked up eventually. But I still love. I mean, Warren Ellis is writing it, and God, what else do you need to know? It's fantastic. Savage Wolf, Joker. So again, we need to know which Joker you're referring to. We have lots of Jokers we've worked with in the past. Linda, do you guys like playing Fortnite? I've never played it, so I can't say whether I like it or not, but the fact that I've never played it probably indicates that I'm not that interested. Mr. Greg?
I have not either. I think you and I are fairly similar in that. I tend to go for first-person shooter, RPG, and some puzzle games rather than battle royale type games.
Yeah. Same
but that's
here.
Me, and that's why we go to PAX and you see 4,000 different interesting video game titles.
Exactly. The only one sort of like that way back in the day that I played. I can't think of the name of it. Greg, what was the the not Doom game, also put out by id Software back in the days of Doom.
Quake?
Quake.
No, Wolfenstein?
No, Quake.
Quake.
I played Quake. What was it? Quake Unlimited. Quake. Yeah, Quake Unlimited.
Yeah, there's a few iterations of that.
It was a tournament or Quake tournament. It was a tournament game version where you would play against other people or the AI, and that was about the only one game like that. I liked it fairly well, but I'm still more, first-person shooter. Put me against the environment that devs created. I like that challenge.
Mm-hmm. Interestingly, I should post this or send it to you to post on the website. I read over the weekend or maybe on Monday a really cool kind of verbal history of the making of the GoldenEye video game.
Cool.
For N64. It was fascinating. It was talking to a lot of the game developers, and I don't want to get too sidetracked, so I won't dive into it. But I'll send you the link, and it's definitely worth posting on our Facebook or the website.
Elijah, whichever one that is, welcome to the show. Does anyone know what's going on? In the general scheme of things in the universe, who really does? What's going on here is, as the description in the show says, this is Nerd Week Live, a show where we talk about nerd news coming up, or that came up in the past week. And we're about to get to our next topic. And our next topic is that just popped up on the screen. There is a screenshot. This time I do mean screenshot. From the short teaser trailer that was put out for the second season of Altered Carbon. Altered Carbon was a really well done sort of combo cyberpunk space opera deep future sci-fi series that was last year or a year and a half ago.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And the second season stars, obviously, Anthony Mackie, best known as Falcon, from the MCU, taking over from Kinman. Gerald Kinman? Jared Kinman?
Joel Kinnaman, yeah.
Joel Kinnaman. Which makes Joel Kinnaman. There we go. Which makes sense because that's the nature of the show is that people's personalities, their actual selves, can be recorded digitally and then transferred from body to body. So it's entirely possible to have somebody with a completely different body and be the same character in a second season, which is what they're doing here. So Netflix show, again coming right up. In fact, this one even sooner than Castlevania, which we just talked about. This will be, its second season will air starting February 27th. I shouldn't say air starting February 27th. You'll be able to binge it on February 27th because nice. Netflix still has not adopted the Disney Plus strategy or the DCEU strategy of weekly episodes. Even though
I love them.
It seems to be doing much better for the social media marketing aspect of all of these shows for Disney Plus and for DCEU than the whole binge idea. I mean, I love the idea of sitting down and binging a show at one time. I also love the idea of, what's going to happen next week? So,
do we have any Altered Carbon fans on the chat out there? If you've seen the show, if you're a fan, chime in.
Linda, Luminous says, I'm enjoying the weekly episodes of Picard. That's true. CBS All Access has been doing that as well with Picard before that Discovery. Yeah, I was just going to comment on Linda's question, but then again, it doesn't matter. As long as you don't... Linda, when you ask a question like that, try not to then follow up with any personal identifying questions about whether or not anybody has kids. I can tell you that I do.
I do not.
And Greg does not. And anybody else in the comments who wants to answer that question, feel free. But again, don't ask any personal identifying information and don't answer any personal identifying information. And everybody's happy. Anyway, so yeah, so Altered Carbon fans, apparently we don't have anybody currently in the chat who did watch it. I watched it. I liked it a lot. It had some questionable aspects to it, but it was a lot of fun. It was wonderfully cast. Linda, don't apologize. No worries. Just want to make sure that we've got like terms nailed down here. It was wonderfully cast. Even Kinnaman, who I find can be like pretty,
a lot.
Yeah, he can be pretty good or he can be really bad.
Yeah.
And he was pretty good.
Did you watch The Killing?
I didn't. I assume he was good in that.
He was pretty good. He definitely has that kind of weirdly strung out junkie thing down kind of pretty well.
Yep.
I think I watched the first 1 or 2 episodes and of Altered Carbon, that is, and liked it, but it's just there's so much interesting good stuff out there that, I mean, unless we can figure out a way to make a living getting paid to sit at home and watching all of these shows, playing all these video games,
working on it.
There's just not enough hours in the day to do that and a job.
Yep. And being a science fiction fan that I am, I absolutely adored it. I adored the much deeper social aspects of the show. What would life be like if you were essentially immortal, except that you'd be using different bodies at different times, and it's what happens in this is something that happens. What happens at one point if your grandma shows up in the body of a 6'5" tattooed thug? But it's your grandma, no question.
There you go. Did you ever read Heinlein's "I Will Fear No Evil"?
Yes. Yeah.
Similar concept.
Yep.
A little more 60s, 70s sexy than Altered Carbon.
Yeah.
Which is a lot more Philip K. Dick, Blade Runner, that sort of vibe and that sort of storytelling. But it was kind of reminiscent of that idea.
Yeah. They touch a little bit on that, what are the implications to like sexuality and sexual activity in a world where you can swap bodies like this, but not nearly as much as Heinlein's. Heinlein's book was mostly about that sort of social aspect of it.
Oh, it was very prurient.
Yeah, very much.
Anyway, what do we got up next?
Next up, we have, and while we're about to bring this up, Wolf, help for what? That is an image from the Broadway play Cinderella. And the reason I brought this up is that that is, I believe her name is Keke Palmer, the first African-American to play Cinderella on Broadway. But the news is about a different Cinderella entirely. And apparently, I want to watch this so badly. Missy Elliott and John Mulaney are going to co-star in a Cinderella movie. And yes, please. All the yes, please. No, but I guess from what I understand, looking at the story, Camilla Cabello is going to be the Cinderella. So I have no idea what Missy Elliott is going to play. Maybe one of the maybe the fairy godmother. That would be so cool.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me open the original article, because the article that I first read that on is a little chatty rather than informative.
This is a bit of a chatty kind of opinion article. Yeah, if you've got more info, please.
So this is from Deadline. Minnie Driver set to play Queen Beatrice. Missy Elliott in talks to play the role of Town Crier, which hopefully means something more than just a random cameo. John Mulaney, because...
Right, hold on, Greg, just a second. Savage, stop it. I can't see anybody else's comments. So if you keep doing that, boom, you're out. All right? So please stop eating up all the comment space. Go right ahead. Mr. Greg.
Where were we? So, God, this is a crazy cast. John Mulaney and James Corden playing the mice / footman. Pierce Brosnan is in it for some reason.
Because why not?
because why not? Billy Porter, Idina Menzel, obviously the go-to for anything Disney. But what did I just read? Was this a?
He's great. Thank you, Savage.
I don't know if this is definite, but it sounds like there's a strong chance that Billy Porter will be playing the fairy godmother.
Yes, that's what this thing says as well. But again, I don't know if that's Idina Menzel. So I'm guessing there's going to be singing.
There's going to be singing.
Avery Helms, that's gay. Feel free to expound on that, Avery. Or don't. And if it was a bad way of describing something as that's gay, then just keep it to yourself. Anyway, so I'm really looking forward to this. I just Missy Elliott and John Mulroney alone, but then you put in Minnie Driver and Pierce Brosnan, Camila Cabello, just so much fun. Can't wait to see this. I would assume this has got to be. They're all doing voice acting. It doesn't say in this piece whether or not this would be animated. Does the Deadline piece say that?
No. No, not that I can see. My guess is that with the long march towards remaking every single Disney movie live action, it will be live action.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right. I just really can't see that as live action. Yeah, I guess so. I'm just trying to picture what Mulroney could. Well, he could play Prince Charming, although he's probably a little old for that.
The Deadline article says he'll be one of the mice footmen. So probably a small-ish role with a big mouth.
Yep. All right. Cool.
Anyway,
Avery.
So
we love our
very
gay siblings as well.
Very chit-chatty. Very a lot of who knows what the bleep this is going to be all about, but given the cast and some of the potential the roles that they're going to be in, I mean, I think I would go to this just for the what the F factor.
Yeah, me too. I would go into it just if Missy Elliott raps and John Mulroney tells jokes. You don't need anything else. Linda is new to this channel and don't know what you guys are talking about. What we are talking about is news that has appeared on the internet about nerdy type topics, such as potential live action remakes of a Disney movie Cinderella, the TV show Altered Carbon that was on Netflix having a second season, etc., etc. So there you go.
Okay. So according to, sorry to just throw this out real quick. According to IMDb, this will be a modern musical version of Cinderella. That's literally their entire tagline for this.
Okay.
So there we go. Musical theater taken to a whole new place.
All right, I'm looking forward to it. Avery, I feel they should be a Fox and the Hound live action. I'm assuming you mean live action. I agree 100%. It was my son's absolute favorite movie as a wee lad. Anyway, moving on to our next topic, and that is the actor Benjamin Bratt, and the news is that Benjamin Bratt has been cast as yet another cast member for the upcoming DMZ series that is going to be produced. Potential series. It's a pilot for HBO Max that's going to be produced by Ava DuVernay. Rosario Dawson was just cast last week. We talked about that. Bratt will play the role of Parco Delgado. And the story of DMZ, it's based on a DC Vertigo comic series. It's near future. America is in a second civil war. And Manhattan has become a demilitarized zone, a DMZ. It is sort of independent of either side, but it's an area where neither side really wants to go into at this point. And the comic book is about people who are sort of stuck in there, and how they are dealing with this pretty awful situation. Very well received comic, or very well reviewed comic. Wasn't a big hit, but it ran its run, and great material for a series. And I, for one, hope HBO Max picks up the pilot. I think that's great. Oh, by the way, just that image is from Benjamin Bratt's smallish but important role in Doctor Strange. And obviously, as you know from the teaser, we have more Doctor Strange news coming up.
I think they go to the same goatee guy.
Good point. I didn't really. That's a good point. Linda, oh no. Bye. Hope your phone recovers. I'm sure there's an outlet somewhere. So yeah, that's the news for Benjamin Bratt and DMZ. Looking forward to it. There isn't any possible time frame set for this because it's still a pilot. It has not yet been picked up by HBO Max. So let's hope they do pick it up. And that being the case, since they haven't even put out a pilot, gonna kind of guess that we're talking about minimum a 2021 launch, or maybe even past that. And that's moving on to our next topic, which is not really related to this. Kind of, sort of, maybe. All right, so this is one of the covers for one of the issues of Secret Invasion, which was one of the Marvel Comics multi-event crossover or multi-title crossover events from quite a few years ago. And the general gist of it was that, the Avengers and other teams discovered that, guess what? A lot of their team members were actually Skrulls in disguise. And there had been a secret invasion of Earth going on by the Skrulls for a long, long time. So the news is that Disney announced in its corporate investors meeting, of all things, CEO Bob Iger said that there were two new Marvel series coming to Disney Plus that they haven't talked about yet. And so, of course, there's been just a fantastic amount of speculation about that. There are people who think all sorts of things about what it might be. But one of the ones that is getting the most traction is the idea that since we've already seen that the Skrulls are in fact actually here on Earth and were back in the 1990s in the Captain Marvel movie, that this series might be a Secret Invasion related series that ultimately ties into the recently confirmed Captain Marvel 2. Although we all knew they were going to make it. It made $1 billion. So, and nobody knows anything about what these two are. And whatever they are, I'm assuming they're going to be pretty darn cool. But I think a Secret Invasion one would be a nice tie-in. They got the Skrulls, and they're obviously, spoiler alert for Spider-Man Homecoming, I won't mention it specifically, but ultimately you find out that the Skrulls played a pretty significant role in Spider-Man Homecoming. So they've had significant roles hidden as different characters in two big Marvel-made movies. Yeah, I think it's safe to say they're going to be doing something with the Skrulls.
Good chance. And it would make sense why Iger was being cagey about how to announce it.
Yeah.
So
I
don't think this is it. I don't see Disney having the shall we say stones to do something, but this would fit so perfectly in with the kind of Witcher, Game of Thrones vibe. Marvel 1602. Did you ever read that? You know what I'm talking about?
That was an like an Elseworlds type or a What If, right?
Exactly. So it was actually fairly brilliant because the premise of this, just very briefly, was X-Men and folks were in the sort of the X-Men world, set in 1602 during the height of the reign of Queen Elizabeth. Shakespeare plays a minor role in this. Neil Gaiman wrote it. The artwork is amazing. It's really clever, and it's very much a period piece, but it follows the same sort of mutant stuff that most of the X-Men do. And it's a cool period piece. You could do all sorts of crazy costumes. It could definitely have that, kind of vaguely Game of Thrones vibe, even though it has almost nothing to do with it. So, and it's a comic series, so it could be it could be done as a Disney Plus series rather than a strictly speaking a movie.
Yeah,
probably not.
Well,
but I like the idea.
I would think not, because it would be great for a single episode of What If, or a spin-off of What If. But since they've got What If, they've already announced that as a series. So they've already got their What If stories, and they know how they're going to play those. And it wouldn't tie in any way to the MCU. And they've made that abundantly clear, that aside from What If, every series on Disney Plus will tie into the movie version of MCU.
Sure. Fair enough. I didn't say it was likely. I just said it would be awesome.
Yeah, it would be awesome. Luminous points out he really enjoyed Secret Invasion comics. They did seem derivative of Ron Moore's Battlestar Galactica. Yeah, all right, I can see that.
Interesting.
But that show has been off the air for a long time.
Cool
and
take.
Savage Wolf, lurker is a term for somebody who likes being on a social media that involves chat but doesn't chat. They just want to experience the chat without involving themselves as well. It's an old school term for those of us who used to be on bulletin boards before the internet. Yes, I'm old. Yeah, thanks, Greg. Thanks for agreeing. Anyway.
No, you're barely out of your 20s.
So we're going to move on to our next topic. And for speaking of young people, as Greg just alluded to, this topic is fairly adult. We will do everything to make sure that we don't say anything that would get us demonetized, therefore would also not be appropriate for whatever age of the theory 13 or up. None of you are younger than that, and if you are, don't tell us, because you'd be lying to YouTube as well, as you've been all along. But also that means in the comments, we've got a really robust filtering system in the comments, but still, if you're going to comment, keep it civil. So what the story is about this anime and its troubled history, its troubled current situation here in the United States. This anime is called Interspecies Reviewers. And the gist of it sounds pretty terrible. And what it is, real simply, is that the two main characters, the human in the middle and the elf to the right, and the angel with a broken halo to the left, and a few of their other compatriots occasionally, like in this case the halfling whose name I can't remember, are in a fantasy world that the city that they're in has lots of brothels, and after having an argument about whether elf women are better as brothel workers or human women, they decide that they are going to go experience all of the different demi-humans and mythological creatures and humanoids that they can in these various brothels and write reviews about them. And it sounds terrible. I'm going to get into why it's not as terrible as it sounds afterwards, but what the news is that after the third episode of this, the two places that this was being simulcast, or simuldubbed as they call it, here in the United States, the Funimation streaming channel and Amazon Prime both dropped it. And Funimation is the only one that put out a statement about it, and Funimation basically said that it fell outside their standards, but since they support creators 100%, they didn't feel it would be appropriate to edit it enough to the point where it could get to their standards. This caused a great deal of consternation and foment in the animation internet world, the AniTubers and so on, and a lot of people were, falling down on this being Funimation censoring something, or people asking, come on, Funimation, why didn't you see this coming? And basically, there have been a few people who have put out some pretty well thought out bits of information about this, including one YouTuber who went and interviewed people who were involved in the licensing of these animes from Japan, and discovered that the licensing people basically live in Japan because they need to be able to sign contracts. So the communication between the licensing people and then the actual streaming people in the United States is not as deep as you would expect. But even more importantly, the manga is not nearly as visually graphic as the anime has turned out to be. The language is still not even remotely safe for work or children or anything in both products, but the anime, and I guess in a moving visual medium, this makes sense, but the anime really ramped up the physical action, and I don't mean fighting, physical action. So Funimation pulled it. And that is kind of a bummer for one big reason, is that, for a bunch of reasons, but it all boils down to how socially positive the show is. It's surprisingly, it's sex positive, obviously. It's sex worker positive. It is trans positive or gender self-identity positive. It's kind of hard to explain without getting into the character of the angel. If you know a few things about what angels are like in traditional mythology, or what Satan as a fallen angel was like at the end of Devilman Crybaby, then you kind of get what I'm getting at here. But it deals with issues of ageism, of not really racism because they're species, but speciesism. So all kinds of isms in a very smart and adult way. And the best thing about it is at the end of the and all of this is addressed in the first episode. At the very end of the very first episode, the human, Stunk is his name, the main character there in the middle again, makes the mistake of having just learned that bird females are particularly sensitive in an area that, is slightly sensitive to humans, like the back of the neck, but way more so among bird people. And so he touches a maid at a bar at that point to demonstrate it, and she picks up a bar chair and knocks him right the heck out. Cold, just boom. Literally puts him to the ground just for touching her without permission. And I went, how is a show with this premise this socially positive? And then it went and dug its own grave by being way more blatant than anybody thought it was going to be. And here we are. Here's this amazing show that, unless you want to go to one of the sites you're not supposed to go to pirate stuff, you're not going to see it here in the States. Hunter x Hunter. Boy, this is so not like Hunter x Hunter. It's a great series. But yeah, no, this ain't not much like that at all. So yeah, so if you're an adult and you want to see it, if you live in Australia, and I know some of our people do, you can still see it there. The main Australian streaming service, which I can't think of the name of, says it will still carry it. Of course, if you're in Japan, you can see it. And if you're in Japan, you can see it uncensored. And if you go to some of the pirating sites, you can see it uncensored as well. But, I don't know where to fall down on this. It's a bummer that people won't be able to see the positive aspects of the show, but boy, I can't blame Funimation and Amazon for pulling a show that, even censored auditorially, is that the word? Auditorially? The soundtrack is hentai.
The audio is
The audio is hentai. They blacked the screen out in the third episode, the one that's the most disturbing to the censors. completely, like blacks out. Says, you'll just have to imagine what's going on, and then they help you imagine that by not censoring the soundtrack at all, and the soundtrack is as close to an actual pornography soundtrack as far as sound effects as I've ever heard.
Okay.
So
you may be alone on this one.
I probably am. I'm sure you haven't seen it, Greg. No.
Nope, haven't got it.
I would recommend it. It's as funny an anime as Konosuba, maybe funnier. It is, like I said, so socially positive in so many aspects of what it does and how it presents what's going on. But no, don't watch it on your phone on the subway. Not that you can in the States anymore, anyway. So there's that. I just wanted to talk about that. Let you know what had gone on with that show in case any of you were aware of it and weren't really sure why it got canceled. But it did. Like I said, big doings in the anime YouTube and anime blogging community. Huh. So now, having got that off my chest.
Y'all talked out?
I'm all talked out. Except, so, hard transition. Savage Wolf, who misses Kobe Bryant? Asked in the chat. No responses yet in the chat. I miss him for what he became. I don't miss him as a NBA star, as a basketball player, because I didn't like the way he played basketball. He was one of the people, along with Michael Jordan before him and LeBron James after, who turned professional basketball into a one-person solo watch me ball hog game. So I was never a fan of his play style. I was certainly never a fan of his off-the-court antics while he was essentially a kid straight out of high school. And that's, of course, referencing the assault case. But after that, he became without argue or without question, a wonderful character, a wonderful person, a great dad, a wonderful mentor, socially very active, charitable, philanthropic. So, in that aspect, yes. The Kobe Bryant of the last 10, 15 years, I do miss.
There you go. I'm indifferent because I don't care for basketball in the least.
I get the Lakers Celtics with Kobe. The last point was probably the last point where I was absolutely dedicated to watching all Celtics basketball. And I don't know that Kobe ruined it for me. I moved on. It was before the time that I got into cosplay photography. But anyway,
I will say this: Spike Lee's Kobe shout-out suit on the Oscars was pretty stunning.
That was fantastic. If anybody's going to wear purple and gold, it's going to be Spike Lee. And then with 2 and 8 on the lapels.
And you can easily just with a couple of accessories, it's a Joker cosplay.
Good point. Or from Saints Row, with purple and gold being their colors.
There you go.
So moving on to the image that was on the teaser, which is not the end story because we changed it up a little bit with some news that just came out today. And that is the rumor, still not fully confirmed, as far as I know, that Sam Raimi, who directed the original Spider-Man movies for Sony, with Tobey Maguire. Tobey Hooper is another horror director, like Sam Raimi. Wow. That was Freudian if there ever was one.
Thinking Tobey Maguire?
Yeah, Tobey Maguire, as I said. But anyway, the rumor is that he has been tapped to direct Doctor Strange 2 after the original Doctor Strange director who was on board for doing Doctor Strange 2 dropped out, although he will still be the executive producer of the movie, and who has said on his Twitter that if it turns out they hire Sam Raimi, he couldn't think of a better choice to do this other than himself. And so he is 100% on board for this. The reason this would be a good thing is Sam Raimi is a horror director. I mean, he's done some, obviously superhero movies with the original Spider-Man films. He did a Western that was interesting, The Quick and the Dead. Go check it out if you like really overly stylized directing. I mean, this is Sam Raimi just saying, I'm going to just let it all loose and do every trick I can think of. But it's got fantastic performances. Sharon Stone, Russell Crowe, it's really good. But he's a horror guy. He is, the Evil Dead trilogy. He has Drag Me to Hell. That's his bread and butter. And Multiverse of Madness, which, as Luminous pointed out, is the title of part of the title of the upcoming Doctor Strange sequel, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, is supposed to be, to some extent, a horror movie as a superhero movie. So, I'm in. I'm hoping.
Yeah, Luminous, I don't know the answer to your question offhand. Is it based on anything specifically from comics? I don't know. I haven't read Doctor Strange stuff in a long time. I'm doing a quick web search here. Nothing so far seems to really allude to that, but I will keep looking.
I don't think it is Luminous because, from what I understand, they are going to be tying Scarlet Witch directly from the WandaVision series into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And there is that I recall, no comic continuity storyline that involves teaming up in any way like this Doctor Strange and Wanda. Particularly if the current theory out there holds true, is that Wanda is going to be the antagonist. That the implication of Wanda's powers just escalating to the point where she's creating alternate realities for herself and Vision to live in doesn't pan out properly, and she basically loses it and becomes a reality-altering danger to what Doctor Strange is supposed to protect, which is reality. I think that makes sense if that is the path they go down, and that would also then tie into the Wanda's No More Mutants storyline, where her powers go completely out of whack and she goes insane and essentially wipes out mutant kind, but for a few people. So we'll see where that pans out. But yeah, I'm with Greg. I don't know, and I haven't seen anything that says that, oh yes, it makes sense that this is going to be a recreation of the Doctor Strange issues, blah, blah, blah storylines. But let's see, what else can we tell you about Raimi? What else has Raimi rumored to be doing here? Oh yeah, I forgot. He also did Oz the Great and Powerful. So there's that.
Everyone's got their goods and their bads.
That's true. Everybody makes mistakes. Although I guess if you want to really see a comparison of his styles, watch Oz the Great and Powerful, which is a pretty straight up Oz updated adventure story, and then The Quick and the Dead, which is so outlandish. Leonardo DiCaprio was a great performance in there too. It's fantastic. Amazing cast in Quick and the Dead. Whoa.
So I just took a quick look over at Sam Raimi's IMDb page. He probably got his sort of jump to fame doing the Evil Dead series and Ash versus the Evil Dead, etc.
Yep.
He did Darkman,
Yes.
obviously all the Spider-Man movies. He did Drag Me to Hell, which was decent, not stellar, but decent. But I'm looking at his director credentials, and he is scheduled to direct part of the Kingkiller Chronicle, which we could do. I could do a whole separate series on that, or a whole separate show on that. I don't know whether that's a single episode, whether he's involved heavily in the entire series, but I am personally a huge fan of the books, and
Now,
that would be an interesting choice for director.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Do I remember Lin-Manuel Miranda is executive producing that?
I think, let me go find this again. From what I remember, Lin-Manuel Miranda is much more, I'm pulling it up now. He is much more heavily involved in that.
Like writing some stuff as well? Or?
I think he's involved in some writing. And so for anybody that's not super familiar, and it's way too long to go into, but the protagonist is essentially a bard, is the quickest, easiest way to explain it.
Of this currently series of fantasy books.
Of the series of books, yep. Correct. That's in pre-production at this stage. So if I remember right, there was talk that Lin-Manuel Miranda was writing a lot of the music along with the author, Patrick Rothfuss. So he may be pretty deeply involved, as opposed to just EP to get the story made.
Hey, Greg, how about if we try to get a hold of Rothfuss at PAX East?
Do it.
He's always there doing his D&D thing. He does a live D&D show.
Cool. We'll have to try and find some interesting angle to toss out there.
Kingkiller Chronicle, the show.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, sorry folks, behind the scenes stuff. As our editors are working here, Mario World and Sonic World. Okay, what the heck? Where is your other friend? We got a lot of people. Byron, Gogo, Lewis. Who else? Ben. You got to be more specific, Mario World. Anyway. So Sam Raimi, I really hope they do nail this down. I think it would be fantastic to have him as the director. They got to nail it down first. This is coming out May 7th, 2021. There's going to be all sorts of, obviously, all sorts of post-production special effects work. So they got to start filming soon. I mean, Cumberbatch is good, but, nobody ever said he was fast.
No.
And we get into our last product. Mario, it's really late at night. I have my dog here because I'm a bit scared of the dark. Well, I hope you're be safe, Mario, and cuddle with your dog, and rely on your dog to be safe. But moving on to our last topic. And our last topic is, it's not going to help me move that picture over if I'm in the wrong thing. It is, of course, Birds of Prey. Or Birds of Prey, and the Emancipation of One Fantabulous Harley Quinn. Or, and this is the news, Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. So the original title early in production was Birds of Prey. When Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn got involved, she became involved as a producer. She became essentially the main character. It then became Birds of Prey, stupid long title that ends in Harley Quinn. Not the exact title. And apparently, a lot of theaters, obviously that was way too long to put on a marquee, so they just shortened it to Birds of Prey. And it seems like Warner Brothers has decided that not having the word Harley Quinn in the title is a problem, and possibly responsible for why it did not meet the $50 million expectation for its opening weekend and hit it at about $33 million. So they have now officially changed the title yet again to Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. And there's a lot of stuff to talk about in here. First off, why didn't it meet the numbers? Second off, why would you make a change like that to try to meet your numbers? A lot of speculation out there about why it didn't meet the numbers. I'll tell you, we've had 2 reviews up on the website, nerdcaliber.com. Go check them out. The first one, I wanted to have one of our favorite Harley Quinn cosplayers, Carly Wynn Cosplay, go see it and give us her review. And that's up there. It's lengthy, as you can imagine. As a Harley Quinn cosplayer, she's got a lot to say. She loved it. Points out what the issues with it are. And then our one of our regular often reviewers, Byron D0, went, and his review has been up for a few days. He liked it quite a bit, didn't love it quite as much, but they both have the same issue, and that is the violence. Harley Quinn, like Deadpool, is rated R, or like Joker is rated R. It's an R-rated comic book movie that has a level of brutal violence that is, from what I understand, akin to like A History of Violence or Eastern Promises or something like that. It's brutal, and as Byron pointed out, well, actually Carly pointed out, but Byron was the one who actually full on and went and said this needs a trigger warning for sexual assault scenes. So they made a movie that was an R-rated movie, and in the marketing of it did not lean into the fact that it was an R-rated movie like Deadpool really did, about a character who is incredibly popular with young women, including teenage girls and even underage girls. I've seen Harley Quinn cosplayers as young as like 8 or 9. So, and then didn't properly market it that it was a ultra-violent R-rated movie. And they now seem to be surprised that it didn't do the box office they expected.
No, it's interesting. I have not had a chance to see it yet. I hope to sometime early next week. But I've read quite a few reviews of it from a wide range of places, not just sort of the typical super pop culture focused stuff, AV Club or Bleeding Cool, etc. All of which didn't really mention anything about the graphicness and extremeness of the violence. The comments about the violence were, it's definitely Harley Quinn. There's a lot more glitter in a fight scene than you're going to see in Batman versus Superman, and talked a lot about how the actors all trained really hard and did most of the stunts and fight sequences live, so that they were not your typical, crazy dark scenes with crazy cuts and editing to, try and Iron Fist, excuse me, deal with a with an actor, performer who can't do stuff. So again, haven't seen it. I'm just relaying information that I've read in a few places. It's just interesting that the two of them really keyed into the level and extremeness of the violence, and reviewers from mainstream sites like the Daily Beast and The Verge, which are not, very mainstream as these things go, talked about it, but didn't really key in on any of that.
Yeah. So I don't want to give away too much. The Birds of Prey's fight scenes aren't where the ultra-violence happens. It's more villainy stuff. But I even that's more spoilery than I really want to get into for people who haven't seen the movie. And again, our reviewers recommend it both highly or even extremely highly, with these caveats. And yes, they really leaned heavily into the action. They hired the primary action coordinator for the John Wick movies to handle all of the stunt choreography, the fight choreography, and the training for all of the characters. So, the director knew exactly what, how to go about getting what she wanted. But I still, if I look at all of the trailers and the ads that I've seen, and we talked about these every time a new one dropped, up to the launch of the movie, there isn't a hint anywhere of brutal violence, or even the fact that it was R-rated. I never saw a Red Band trailer. I don't think.
Nope. Not that I remember.
Just Grievous Gaming, welcome to the show, and all fandoms, Star Wars included, are welcome here. So yeah, it
interesting.
So I don't think you need to blame any of the, and I don't doubt there's an issue with this, any of the sort of male jerk scumbags who are trying to torpedo any female-led movie as they do for this particular lack of meeting the success numbers that they were expecting. I think their own marketing campaign is to blame.
It does seem like a kind of a combination of a lot of not great decisions as far as the marketing and whatnot goes. The funny thing, and this is because I work in the computer industry, and this is the kind of stuff that I occasionally key in on. When I was looking around at a couple of articles about this, one of the sources, I'd have to go back and dig up what it is, so I'm just kind of quoting this out of memory, was blaming the title not for the reasons that you were talking about, because it's not clear whether it's R-rated or it's cool for younger people, etc. The title, Birds of Prey, with the very long subtitle, was horrible for search engine optimization. So the internet wasn't getting the word out there because it wasn't popping up in Google and other search engines. Which I have no idea whether that's true or not. It just made me chuckle when I read that.
I believe that the statement is true, that it is clearly awful from an SEO standpoint, like really awful. But I'm not sure whether or not that would, like, when I was doing image searches for all of the things that we had up here, including the Birds of Prey images, all I would type in is Birds of Prey, and all of my first results would be from the movie, because that's the way Google algorithm works. It figures, you want to see the same thing that everybody else is searching for, and what everybody else is searching for is the Birds of Prey movie. So the first hits you're going to get are what everybody else is searching for. Now, if somebody, say somebody typed in, Harley Quinn sequel, which is really what it is, you're right, that wouldn't come up. I mean, I'm sure that that wouldn't be the first. Greg's going to try it now.
No, I'm just typing Harley Quinn, fictional series. I mean, this is actually probably popping now because of this news that it's changing the title. This was on DuckDuckGo, not even on Google. It's a fair point. It's news about the change of title. And then everything below that, there's ads. So there's Hot Topic, Harley Quinn costumes, not surprisingly. And it's like the 5th or 6th result with the IMDb for Birds of Prey.
Yep.
Anyway,
that makes sense.
So
that makes sense.
Interesting theory. So what was I going to say about this? Oh, Rodney, did you see the Harley Quinn on whatever the name of the DC streaming service is? I can't keep up with all of them.
The Harley Quinn animated series?
Yeah, YouTube did the first episode for free.
Yep.
Or DC, whoever it was. The first episode was available for free without having to subscribe. Did you catch that while it was available?
I actually subscribed to DCU. I've seen up to episode 4, I think. I haven't seen the whole series yet.
Okay.
It's hilarious. I think it's really funny.
Yeah.
It is also, I think you're about to say,
super, super violent.
Ultra
it's definitely the TV version of R-rated so again, I've only seen the first episode of that when it aired for free. There wasn't much sexuality involved in that. the toxic relationship with Joker obviously played into that, but there wasn't, the R-ratedness, if you will, was all about just the scale and vividness of the violence that went on in that.
Yeah.
But I thought it was fantastic. I would not have expected Kaylee Cuoco to be the right person to voice that character, but I thought she was great.
I think she nailed it. I would liken it to a female-led Rick and Morty with less alcoholism. Mario World, when are you going to show us about our comments? Do you mean comment about your comments? How about now? Who likes Baby Yoda? Who doesn't like Baby Yoda is a more accurate term, or a more accurate question. We all love Baby Yoda. The number of memes out there about Baby Yoda indicates that everybody loves Baby Yoda.
Pretty much.
Yeah, so I just realized we went like stupid long.
Yep.
And again, not uncommon for the two of us. So we're going to wrap this up, folks. I would just like to say that I am hoping that Harley Quinn finds its audience and is one of those movies that after the first week, all of the positive reviews out there, and it's over 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. Both of our reviewers are positive. People really like this movie, problems aside. We'll get more people into the seats, and we will see a surge in a second week. But if not, Warner Brothers has nobody to blame but itself. Yep. In my mind.
And that'd be a shame too, because again, by all accounts, as I said, I haven't seen it, but the approach that it's taking and the fact that it's making an effort to do fight scenes that are staged and not CG, it's treating female characters like human beings and not like, body parts. I was struggling to find a PG way to express that. It would suck if the output of that was, see, everybody really just wanted to see Margot Robbie in the skimpiest outfit they could get her into.
Right. Now that was Suicide Squad.
That was Suicide Squad. I just picked BVS because I still have a bad taste in my mouth from that thing. But yes, I mean, that's the stuff that I've read is specifically talking about sort of how male gazy Suicide Squad was with Margot Robbie. And how not that Birds of Prey is. That it's actually, these are human beings and not just female body parts.
Right. While still having absolutely beautiful women in very wonderful roles of empowerment. So why wouldn't you want to watch that? Anyway. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for being in the chat, folks. Thank you for your excellent questions and your comments and your chatting. Once again, Greg and Manny will be at Katsu this coming weekend. If you're at Katsucon, the Gaylord National Resort and Conference Center, Gaylord Resort and Conference Center. Anyway, they're in Maryland.
Gaylord at the National Harbor. If you know the area, you can't miss it.
Exactly. If you're there, check them out. Go look for them to get your photos or enter your video. With PAX East coming up at the end of the month. PAX East panel Friday 3:30, the Advanced Cosplay Q&A with Lucky Grim Creative, Misa Cosplay, Steel Shield Cosplay, and all the way from Texas. So Sledge or Sledgehammer Creative, if you type out the whole thing in Facebook, or Sledgehammer Cosplay on Instagram. I'll make sure I got those right, because I called it just Sledgehammer Cosplay last time. People who know everything that you would ever be able to ask them. They know answers to everything in how to do anything in making costumes and cosplay. Mario World, every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. That's where we're here, except for those weeks where we're not because of holidays or technical issues. If you want to bring a date to our show, okay.
By all means,
rock on. And then after PAX East, mid-March, Ace Comic-Con here in Boston, Queen City Kamikaze, wonderful little con up in Manchester, And then we get into April, Anime Boston. Anime Boston, we're running the photo studio suite. Come by, get your free photos, get your paid and edited photos. If you're in the masquerade, you have to come by and get your photos, so we'll see you there. Suite 102, and we'll have a table. Our table this year will not be in the community row. A lot of us upcoming conventions are getting spots inside the dealer room. And I'm not sure if I'm officially supposed to tell you this, but we're really close to the Funimation booth, so sorry, Funimation, for what I said tonight. Anyway, and we'll see you there, and then Greg's at MegaCons of or fan expos of all kinds of types.
Lots of fan expos. Anybody that's in Florida, I will be at MegaCon in, when is that, April, I want to say. I can't even keep track. It's a busy year.
One of them's in April and one of them's in May, right?
One of them's in March and one of them's in April. Yeah, something like that.
Oh, so I think Dallas
is in March.
So then, yeah, you're right. So then MegaCon Orlando is in April, when it should be, when it's still not really super warm here in New England. And so you can get to go down into 85 degrees and palm trees.
That's all I got.
I just say Mario World, before we leave, the system hid this message, but I don't mind that you promote your channel. Go to subscribe to my channel. Go to subscribe to your channel, I assume, and come see me and Harley sometime. Harley being your pupper. Thank you for clarifying. That's a wonderful name. It fits in right with our last topic. That your pupper is a sweet girl named Harley. That's cool. Anyway, folks, good night. We'll see you next week. We'll see you at cons. Have fun.